Are you having trouble feeling your hamstrings because you're so flexible when you do exercises? Watch this.
Our next caller is Amanda from Australia.
Hi, Amanda. How can we help you?
Hey, guys. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. I was so sure I wasn't going to fangirl at you, but I kind of am. So thank you for having me on. I'm very grateful to be here, and just keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to jump straight into the question. I'm on the last phase of your MAPS anabolic program, and I'm struggling with your good morning exercise. I don't really feel my hamstrings working at all when I'm doing it. And I'm loading it out quite heavy. And I've watched your video on YouTube of how to do it correctly. And I recorded my form and everything looks fine, but I feel nothing. And I am very flexible. Like, I train and coach aerial tissue. So I have a lot of active flexibility. So I don't know if that's impeding or is doing anything that is why, or I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah. So my wife did aerial tissues for a while. She traveled with Cirque. She worked for Cirque, and so she was very flexible when I first met her. And doing good mornings and stiff-legged deadlifts, even hip hinging properly, she would we'd have to have her stand on a box because the weights would hit the floor and she wouldn't get a stretch.
There's the range of motion.
So it's just, that's part of it. Part of it could be your form and technique. But if you're hip hinging, okay, if you're properly hip hinging, if it's not at the lumbar spine, in other words, you're maintaining neutral spine and you're bending at the hips and your butt is kind of coming back and your knees are slightly bent but fixed, your hamstrings are working. They are working. So even though you might not feel them necessarily, they're working. Something you could try as a technique. First off, I want to make sure your form is perfect. If this is going to be, I'm going to say this considering you have good form, okay? So if your form is good and you want to feel your hamstrings, try this pre-exhaust superset. Try doing leg curls and then go right to good mornings and then see if you feel your hamstrings. 9 out of 10 times you'll be able to feel the hamstrings in the good mornings if you pre-exhaust them with a leg curl.
Amanda, where do you feel it when you do them? And especially since you're loading it, when you get done with a rep or a set, where do you feel it?
Honestly, I feel it slightly in my glutes, but mostly it's my back gets it, my lower back starts getting exhausted from just holding the heavy weight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you notice a difference when you do? Are you having the same experience like Sal was saying that Jessica had, where even when she did stiff-legged deadlifts, have you done any stiff-legged deadlifts, and do they feel the same way also?
Romanian deadlifts.
I when I do them, I do what Jessica does. I stand on a bench so I can go even deeper, and then I feel it. But if I just do regular ones, it's very hard for me to feel much.
Yeah. So I mean, the key is when you're doing this, right? You can bend over, and the lumbar spine can flex and extend. The hips can also cause flexion and extension. So your spine has to be perfectly rigid. So when you're doing the movement, you want to lead with your chest, stick your butt out, and then as you go down, let the hips kind of travel back a little bit. Mm-hmm. You're probably not going to feel a stretch because you're so flexible, and that's okay. You're still working the hamstrings. But try the pre-exhaust technique that I said. And you could do leg curls on a physio ball or leg curls on a machine, then go right to good mornings or right to Romanian deadlifts, and you'll probably feel the hamstrings.
Well, just in terms of your lower back getting fatigue, have you gone through and braced with a PVC pipe down your spine and tried to make sure that your lower back was touching the PVC pipe as you hip hinged at the same time? Only because that is a great tool to be able to kind of teach your body to maintain that bracing position, especially if you're loading it and making sure that you're keeping that rigid back completely.
No, I haven't tried that. Neither the pre-exhaust one. I'll try both of them and see how that.
So just from a technique perspective,
it's actually really what you're experiencing is actually common with somebody who has this great of a range of motion in their hamstrings. It's like when you're teaching somebody an exercise to feel it in the muscle, we're going to feel it at the end ranges the most, especially when you're first learning how to activate and work that. So because you have such a great range of motion in the hamstrings and you're not taking it to the end range, it's really hard to make that mental.
Yeah, because there's no peak contraction. At the top, it's not like your hamstrings are fully contracted.
That's right.
The range of motion, the part of the range of motion that someone would feel in a good morning is the stretch.
Yep.
And because you're so flexible, you're just going, it's all mid for you. Yep. There's no stretch, there's no squeeze either at the top. but it's working. Now, here's the other thing I want to say to someone like you, which is rare, someone as flexible as you, I don't even think you should search for the stretch because it's so deep that unless you go really, really light and your form is like pristine, perfect, I wouldn't load it very heavy and do that because the odds that you're going to have perfect technique with that kind of range of motion is quite low. So I would go, if you're going to push for the stretch, I would go super light. Otherwise, let the weights hit the floor. So don't stand on a bench. Get perfect technique and do a pre-exhaust. Leg curls on a physio ball, go straight to the good mornings. Go lighter with the good mornings because you pre-exhausted, and then you'll probably feel the hamstrings.
Okay, and even though like the flexibility makes it so I don't get that end of range of motion, I still get, I guess, the same benefit as somebody.
The hamstrings are still working. They're still functioning in that hip hinge.
And you're
movement.
still taking them through a pretty big range of motion too. So it's not like you're like it's different if you were neglecting a range of motion and it's like this shortened little range of motion, but you're still taking the muscle through a great range of motion. It's just that you happen to be really, really flexible there. I mean, if your form is good and you're getting stronger in the good mornings, I wouldn't worry too much about this.
About the feel of it.
Yeah. And I love the advice of doing like lying leg curls before so you can feel it.
You'll feel it.
But that's the reason why, because lying leg curls, there's tension on the hamstring the entire time, regardless if you're at the end range or not.
And you get the squeeze there.
And so that's why you feel that. The reason why you don't very much is because on a good morning at the very top, you're not really contracting that much. There's no resistance because of gravity because you're up. And then when you go all the way down, you're not even close to your end range. So it's not making it feel that stretch feeling. So that's why you're feeling the way it is. And it's not uncommon for somebody who has flexibility like you. And it doesn't necessarily mean something is necessarily wrong though either.
Yeah, the pre-exhaust is, I think, going to be key for you to feel. But I mean, like when you do like a pancake stretch or whatever, you flatten yourself out, right? You could bend all the way. Yeah, you're not gonna feel the stretch in any kind of a hip hinge movement, unless you super modify it, which I don't.
Creating that muscle tension is everything.
Yeah, so pre-exhaust. Do the pre-exhaust. If you want to feel your hamstrings, go leg curls and then straight to good mornings or straight to Romanian. So it's a superset, right? So it's like you do 10 leg curls, and with the leg curls, squeeze the contraction. Focus on getting your heels to your butt. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Do 10 reps there, then go to the hip hinge movement, and you'll feel them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You got it.
I'll definitely try that.
You got it. Thanks for
All right,
calling.
man.
Yeah, you guys I've shown you because when I first started dating Jessica, I would send you guys. You can see the flexibility and the strength.
Splits, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to be flexible but also strong to support yourself. But good mornings, remain deadlift. Like unless you can stretch the hamstrings, you're just going to be. It's gonna be hard to feel as you do it.
Anybody that has that kind of like hyper flexibility, it's a difficult client to train. A lot of times it's a control thing, to be able to create that muscular tension took a lot of time to develop. But your guys' points about her already being in that only feeling in the end range. Her end range is so far that to be able to feel that is very challenging. So
and searching for it wouldn't necessarily be a good idea.
Well, and in a good morning, you have to understand that when she stands all the way up,
there's nothing.
There's no even though that's the fully contracted position from that. There's gravity's not resisting it anymore, so she doesn't have to be squeezing very much. And then when she goes all the way down, that's the other point. But she has such a great range of motion that she's not at the end stretch.
And it's not even a fully contracted, right? Because your leg is still straight, right? Fully contracted will be a curled leg. At the top, it's the glutes, but there's no resistance up there. You're not going to feel anything.
Yeah.